Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Z-Man Show. As Adam and I are going to tackle the 2019 horror kind of slasher flick. I don't even know what exactly it is, but it's got horror in it. Ready or not? So, Adam, welcome back to the show as we dive right into this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking about it. Different take on what we've looked at the past previous weeks. I think it'll be a good talk.
Yeah, we've been really focusing on a lot of older 80s flicks, which I love me some 80s, but there's some cool movies still coming out in between. I will say they're far and few as compared to previous years, but this one was pretty damn cool. And so this movie we're gonna have to talk spoilers all across this. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to spoil it for you, probably stop this review, go watch it, and then maybe come back, and then you can see what we were all talking about and why we maybe did or did not enjoy it so much. So this movie is following Grace, which is Samara Weaving, which I'm just starting to get into her acting career, because she was in that those two movies I told you about, Adam, The Babysitter and The Killer Babysitter. Anyways, I found them on Netflix, and I was like, man, this chick's pretty cool, you know, a lot of fun. And
genre, huh?
Yeah, and once I found that she was in this one, I was like, well, yeah, you know, let's keep it running. And she did not disappoint, I don't think, at least for her acting. I mean, there were some very intense scenes going on in this movie, and just setting up the premise. Adam, why don't you go ahead and take it from there?
So she plays a character in this movie called Grace, who is a former foster child, and basically she's marrying into the Ladomas family, marrying specifically Alex, one of the kind of young to middle-aged brothers of the family. And I agree, like, her blood-curdling screams were convincing. In my opinion, maybe a little over the top at times, but still convincing. And honestly, I thought she was a very convincing lead. She was tough, and it was cool to see her not just go down as the movie went on. So.
Yes, and it seemed like, you know, she was questioning as she was about to get into this family, and you know, she's like, your father hates me, and your aunt doesn't pay me any attention, and I'm not sure about your mom. You know, she realizes that some of them think that she's just a gold digger, which is funny enough. That's pretty much what all the other members that married into the family are, because this family is, as she says, richer than God. I mean, these guys have a ton of money, and it's all from they make board games. That's their business. But there's a little bit more sinister stuff going on in the background that Grace doesn't quite understand, and she gets thrown right into the mix the night of after their wedding.
Yeah, and like you said, they have to play this game, right? So there's this family tradition, and at this point in the movie, you don't know anything more about it than that whenever someone marries in to the family, they draw a card from this card box, and they have to play a game. And Grace draws hide and seek, and of course she draws it. She's like, okay, well, I'm going to play hide and seek. I'm just going to go hide until you find me. Mm-hmm. Little does she know that for whatever reason, hide and seek in this version is hide, seek, and kill. So the family actually has to kill her off. And when I first saw the reveal, I was kind of like, really, this has to happen? But as the movie goes on, you kind of start to understand why. So maybe I'll kick it back to you.
Sure. So the intensity builds. So we'll finally get to the absolute why, because that's the biggest drop and spoiler of the whole movie. But you're right, the intensity just starts building on. You're like, this family is hellbent. It's tradition. They have to. And so as they lead Grace up heads on her way to go start doing her hiding, they're all loading up downstairs. They start playing the creepy old 19 or maybe 1800s, you know.
That was a good touch.
It is. The old hide and seek song is perfect, right?
Yeah.
And they're getting out these weapons, and some of the weapons are so old, and you gotta love some of the other characters. I mean, yes, some of them over the top, whatever, but that's what kind of made this movie. It had some good humor in it. And so you have some of the other family members. You have Daniel's wife, who she can tell Daniel's the brother of Alex, and she gets like some kind of almost like a spear gun or something like that, you know, like you go, you know, fishing or something like, or shark hunting with or whatever. And she's pretty cold in general. You can see that she's ready to do the killing. You have the cracked out sister who's on opiates, and
she's something else.
She is something else. She is a hot mess. She even comes into the room and she's like, "Oh, hi, Grace. It's so great to see you." And because they didn't get to make the wedding, and she has like the coke like still on her nose. You know, I'm just like, Jesus, woman. You know, just get it together. And then you got her husband, who is a total d-bag. What was it, Fitch? Yeah.
Fitch, yep.
And yeah, he's cocky, whatever, but he's so not together. You know, I mean, he doesn't have a clue, and he gets like this crossbow, right? Remember, he goes, "Am I actually supposed to use this thing?" He goes, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I mean, and honestly, those two characters just all throughout the movie just really don't even really contribute that much to the hunt because,
No.
well, I mean, Emily, I guess, does in a weird sort of way, but she ends up killing the wrong people because she walks in a room, gets excited because she sees someone. And I think she kills several maids, if I'm not mistaken.
At least 2 out of the 3, as I recall, as I watched it freshly. And it's if you learned anything, you do not want to be the help in this movie.
Right.
Even Stevens, which is their main butler guy, which I like Stevens a lot because he was kind of like that other bad entity who you can't seem to kill. He keeps coming back, right?
Yeah.
And he finally gets his eventually, but it was pretty entertaining to see that, especially when she's in the car. And remember, she's finally trying to get a chance to get away, and they're like, "Ma'am, this car's been reported stolen." She's on like the OnStar thing. His name's Justin, right? I mean, that's just perfect names. And she's like,
I did like that.
She's like, "Justin, turn the car back on. I'm gonna die." She goes, "Man, the police will be there." And then I love the scene. I got to throw it out there because she goes, "Justin, are you there?" And he goes, "Ma'am, is there anything else I can help you with?" She goes, "Yeah, you can go F yourself, Justin." And he's like, "Okay, have a nice night, man." It's just like, it was just good. It was good little parts of humor and throwing in today's technology, as she's trying to make her escape. But man, she gets put through the ringer trying to get around. And I think even from the start, the maid's starting to get it, and that's how it gets revealed to Grace that this family is, and let's get right into that. Alex is trying to save her.
Yeah, he doesn't. I mean, he actually loves his new wife, and he doesn't want her to die. And at the beginning of the movie, he's basically decided, you know what, to hell with this game. I'm going to show her what's going on. I'm going to break the rules and turn on the security cameras, and I'm going to open the door so she can get outside and get away. And that's exactly what he sets out to do. Very, very knight in shining armor approach to the whole thing. So it comes across as a very admirable character, actually.
He does. But as the movie continues on, and the ante keeps raising, and you can see the father who plays, this is the actor that plays Kittredge in all the Mission Impossible movies. In fact, he's still going. I just saw they're making Mission Impossible 7 and 8. I mean, these things they're just rocking. I have about 3 of them I have to get caught up on, so I guess I better get watching pretty soon. But yeah, he plays a great role, and he plays a very frustrated father. Like, he's definitely determined to the task. He's about tradition, but at times he's losing his shit all over the place when they're failing to take her out. And you got to love his wife.
Becky.
Becky, and I'll get her picture up here for you. But she played in Groundhog Day. I love her in that movie with Bill Murray. Yeah. Right on.
Eddie McDowell.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyway, she's like, "Honey, take a pill," or she's always trying to re-level him down, like the good wife or the good woman that we always have tries to do for us. But yeah, it just, one thing after another just keeps going wrong as they're trying to take out Grace, and it's just ridiculous. So we don't have to talk every piece of the movie because we don't give it all away, but it is, I'd say it's a fairly decent roller coaster. I mean, the pacing was decent. I don't think there's ever a real point where you're just kind of like, I'm getting bored or anything like that.
And that's fair. And I think the movie definitely catches your attention and keeps it from start to finish. The one thing I will say is, like, last week we talked about Halloween and Friday the 13th, and one of the things I really appreciate about Halloween was its slow building creep factor. Well, this one is less creepy and more just like in your face. Like, almost every moment it's in your face with comedy. It's in your face with the kills. Like, the kills are very gory.
The shock factor you were talking about, right?
Yeah, it takes the shock factor that we talked about in Friday the 13th, and to borrow from This Is Spinal Tap, it turns it up to 11.
That is a very fair statement, and you're right though. And depending on what kind of horror or slashes, whatever you like, if you like that slow build, this is a completely other monster. And I wasn't really thinking about that when we spoke on it at first, Adam, because I know you had a little hesitations that if you really enjoyed it as much. But you're right. It's kind of not like Saw, and I don't think you've ever seen the Saw movies, but they're very it's extreme shock factor. And although still slow building in some places, by the time you do get to the shock, you're just like, whoa, But you're right. This one feels like you're running at a speed of 11, which is probably good because Grace is running at a speed of 11 to try and escape this house and get away from these people. So it makes sense.
And to borrow from what we already said earlier, Grace was quite frankly probably my favorite part of the movie, which, I mean, if you're going to have a character be your favorite part of the movie, it may as well be the main protagonist. But I mean, like, I mean, the thing that I like about her, she gets in, she's happy, she clearly has a love for her husband. As she figures it out, she gets scared, but then after she gets over the fear, she gets tough and she
Tough.
finds a way to fight it all off. And I thought she was a really cool character, and I thought she was a great choice for a protagonist.
I just got an image just because I watched this fresh, again last night. I know you just watched it a couple nights ago too. The little boy Georgie who gets out of his bed. So this is one of the two sons of Emily. Okay, the
Yeah.
cocaine chick or whatever, sister. And remember, he's in the stable, and she's like, Georgie, can you help me? He pulls out his mom's gun and shoots a huge old bullet through her hand, and she starts screaming, and then suddenly she just kind of gets this look of enragement, and she just comes back and cold cocks that kid right in the face. And I mean, it's little moments like that that really, like, when the action, even if it was getting a little over the top at times, if that could be argued, I think it just made it a lot of fun. You're just kind of like, damn, girl, yes, you're rooting for Grace. Like you said, she's one of the favorite characters. But one of the other favorite characters, and not in a sense of being goofy like Fitch and Emily, because they're just a shit rack, and even Daniel's wife. But who one of my really favorite characters was, especially after watching it twice, was Daniel. There was goodness in Daniel. See, all throughout this movie, Daniel's trying to protect his brother. He's trying to protect Alex from the begin. In the very intro scene, there's some craziness that goes down. We'll let that be for those who haven't seen it. And he tries to protect his brother from seeing it. And then we flash forward to many years later when they're actually, grown now and they're getting married and this and that. But Daniel, he's still trying to protect Grace. He's like, you can get out of this family if you want, and this, and even throughout the movie. And yes, he does still follow in with his family, and he doesn't really truly help her until almost the end, and he ends up sacrificing himself, because throughout the movie, Adam, did you notice that? That look he kept giving like his wife and some of those other family members, because he was like, he could tell, especially when they were talking about passing on the tradition to the sons, the young boys of Emily, and he just has that look, and I think he was just thinking, my God, how can I let this continue to happen?
No, and it's funny you say that, because he was also my next favorite character, and for the very same reasons. And I mean, to be fair, like on the one hand, yeah, he does. I honestly think he helps her, but in kind of a sneaky way. Because if you remember, toward the end of the movie, there's a scene where he kind of like knocks Grace out so he could take her back. But his dad is sitting there the whole time. So if he doesn't do it, and his dad's watching, I mean, what's he going to do? So I think the interesting thing is, on the surface, it doesn't necessarily appear that he's being as helpful as he can be. But I think he's doing as much as he can in the moment. And Greg, frankly, is very selfless, especially if you talk about what the stakes are if this doesn't go through.
Yes. And as Daniel is figuring this whole thing out about his family has to die, we should all die. And true, he's drunk throughout half of it too, but I think he's finally had enough. He's just like, this is ridiculous. We don't deserve this. And what do they get out of all this? Well, they basically made a deal with the devil, to become mad, filthy rich.
Baal, right?
Baal. So talk about that briefly, real quick. What did you pick up on that, Adam?
So just doing some Wikipedia research, and there's a section where it says a man named Baal, and it's really an anagram of the word Belial, which is a name for the devil in the Bible, one of the many names for the devil. So clearly, this person that they made a deal with, and the reason that they play a game every time a new family member is introduced, was in fact the devil. And it sounds like the pact that they made is that if they don't go through with the game, something really bad happens to the family. So that's why, despite the fact that they don't necessarily want to kill her, they like her, they're like, well, we don't want anything to happen to the family, so we're going to do it. Yeah.
And the dad makes a small reference. He goes, you remember what happened to and I'm just going to Vendaventers or whatever like that. And they're like, didn't they just die in the house fire? He goes, no, that's what they wanted you to think, and so that's just kind of getting you ramped up for it. So anyways, let's get through it, because we don't have to talk every kill scene and this and that too. By the very end, so I'm thinking, she's had some near misses, right? But finally, Alex, he finally understands after he sees his mom just recently killed by Grace, just defending herself, right? And he hears her even say, F your family and this and that. And I think Alex finally understands what he has to do as a member of his Ladomas family, right? So he's finally willing to step up to the plate, while Daniel is finally coming to another epiphany of, we need to end this family. and he starts to basically he grabs Grace and gets her set up for this final sacrifice moment. And I thought, Adam, it really was throwing me off, and it was amazing when, especially, remember Aunt Helen. Let's not forget about her crazy ass too, with that crazy spiked up hair, and she's all about the kill because it happened.
Hardcore goth.
Yes, it's the only other one we saw in the movie where this affected her as well, and she didn't want her husband to die, but in the end, she knew it had to be done, and ever since that, she's been dedicated to the cause, and she doesn't get close to any of them. She's just like, do it. Well, anyways, so the very end, they have Grace, and they're all like, "Hail Satan, hail Satan!" And Alex he's going down, right? He's ready to go, and something happens, and Grace is able to just twist a little bit, and she gets stabbed. And meanwhile, as she's backing off with the knife, and they're all afraid to get close to her because even though they're super rich, they didn't get eternal life from the devil. Yeah. They can still die. And all of a sudden, the light starts peering through the window, and Aunt Helen goes over and opens up the shades, and it's full-on sun. It's coming through the window from dawn, and she knows they failed. And they all start, whimpering, and they're saying, "LaBelle, please, we will not fail you," and this and that. But then it gets kind of quiet, and, Fitch is over there kind of like, he's almost yelling like a vampire would when the sunlight hits you or something, and then they're just all standing there, and they're like, it was bullshit, And then I start getting this feeling like, oh my God, were they hunting this girl this entire time? And it was all just crap. And then it didn't take but a few moments before the big hits start going. And so what did you think about that ending? How did you feel about it?
I liked the ending quite a bit, actually. I liked Grace's resilience yet again. I liked the fact that Alex turned. It was an unexpected twist. I did a little bit. I don't know if I caught this, but when I was doing some reading on it, it sounds like the reason he twisted is because he loved her and he wanted her to forgive her. And when she said she wouldn't, he was like, okay, well, I guess I may as well go through with this and protect my family. Then it's like, if I can't have you, I may as well live.
Right. And basically the same ultimatum the mom had, because he said, if you kill her, I'm going to kill you. And she said, I guess I'm screwed either way. So really, it was the same thing for him, because if she's not going to forgive him, then they all die. He's pretty much screwed either way. So, big piece.
But no, like the ending is, it's cool because, like you said, they're all sitting around, and there's this moment where you're like, man, are they just being a bunch of assholes? Does it not mean anything? And then all of a sudden, one of them just basically explodes, and you're like, okay.
Oh, and that's right. And I think it was Aunt Helen, which I think was great because that woman just had to go anyways. But she kind of looks over to the chair because that's where the box is in. She goes, I know we didn't get it done in time, but I will not fail you. And she picks up the big old cleaver hatchet thing, and she starts running for it. And she was the first one, just goes plop and just explodes into a pile of blood and just pieces. And it was just like one from there to there. I loved it. I love Fitch's reaction. He kind of looks over at the dad and Tony. I think he goes, oh no. He goes, and then Emily starts running with her kids out the door, and you see the blood flying back out the other door. I mean, it was just a lot of fun. And Grace's laugh as they started blowing up. I mean, because she realized at this point she made it, and that everything was true that they were spitting out. So she gets it, but she didn't want to be the one. She didn't want to be the sacrifice.
And I think I also really liked at the end because Alex is the one that goes last, and he's sitting there pleading with her. I think, but at that point, like, it's almost from a selfish perspective. He's almost wondering, like,
totally.
if I get her to forgive me, will he let me live? And she's just like, no.
and that was I thought that was interesting there. So I think, remember how he was protected from the family for so long, and like the two young boys, they still hadn't been introduced. But I think when they started partaking in and Georgie shot her, and they finally explained to the boys, I think that basically got them in. And when they were doing the chanting, so they were screwed. If they would have stayed innocent, I don't think they would have been affected. And just like Alex's character, I think he might have actually had a second chance. I think LaBelle might have let him live if he had done the right thing. But he didn't. He totally turned on her ass. And she kind of takes off that ring. She goes, I want a divorce. And not even like seconds later, it just, boom, he explodes. And she just gets coated. And she's just kind of sitting there, right? And she's just like, yeah, well, I guess that's that. And then freaking, she looks over the fireplace, right? And then just a quick little 2-second glimpse of LaBelle or a character of such sort just kind of flashes in with smoke and then right out. And she's just like, well, shit.
Well, at that point, she's
Oh
seen it
man.
all, right? So even that's kind of one of those things. It almost just kind of affirms that everything happened. It's no more shocking than anything she's already been through, right?
Absolutely not. Right. You're totally right. I mean, she has seen the whole gambit throughout this thing. So, this movie, what a ride. Now, before we get out of here, Adam, was there anything that was throwing you off, or like, because I know you're personally not a huge horror slasher fan or whatever, but you may be starting to get into them a little bit. Is there anything about this movie that you were just kind of like, I'm not so sure I would recommend it, or would you recommend?
I think the answer I would say is don't go into it expecting to be super scared.
Okay.
But there are moments that make you cringe, there are moments that make you laugh, and there are moments that will shock you. And I think that if I watched it a second time, I might actually enjoy it more because I won't be expecting John Carpenter's Halloween.
Good point.
It's just kind of know what you're getting out of it. It's not going to scare you. It's going to hit on a lot of other things that horror movies tend to do well. And I think if you're okay with that, you're going to like it.
In your defense too, I didn't really fully explain to you kind of
Eh,
what, because when you hear horror slash, you're thinking, oh, it's going to be scary. This or that. Because
right.
it's not really a slasher, but it is in a sense because they're trying to take her out. You know what I mean? It
Hmm.
has those elements. So you said it
It's
perfectly.
okay.
You're going to have all those fun moments in between, shocking value. Not so much creepy. It's just kind of like just wow, just watch this train wreck go down. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, get a chance. Go out there and check out Ready or Not. We're still in October. It's still Scary Movie Month. In fact, we may hit up scary movies in January and February for all that matter. But we wanted to hit a few more in October because it's the time for it. So with that said, we're getting here towards the end. Make sure to come out and like and subscribe if you're enjoying. And don't forget, check out our Dead Nightmare series. Adam's actually an actor in a zombie series that I write and direct, and a lot of other things as well. We have the prosthetics and all the other fun stuff. And true, it's no Walking Dead, but it's a fun thing. If you like something on the side, you like a little indie action, get out there. Adam, he's still surviving so far, right, Adam?
Yeah, I hope to make it to the end, but probably not many of us will. We'll see what happens.
Hey, it's not a good zombie flick if everybody lives, right? So,
Right, I'll do what I got to do.
so with that said, this is Mike and Adam with the Z-Man Show, and we will catch you guys at the next review.
See you next week.